Hello and welcome to the first in a series of BrainBasedBoss just-in-time learning videos. This is the first, as I said, and I want to give you a bit of an overview as to what this concept is of just-in-time learning videos. I've been in the training game for 25 plus years and things have changed along the way. Some things have stayed the same. And back in the day when I first started out, training was very much front of a classroom. I'm a trainer, I know stuff, you're trainees, you're sitting there ready and willing to learn. And pretty quickly I learned that's not really where most learning in the workplace occurs. And there's this model we talk about called the 10-20-70 rule. That notion of classroom, formal, planned, get a certificate at the end training accounts, supposedly for 10%. Imagine a pyramid, 10%. And the 20% is on the job, it's formal, it is planned, there's someone there with maybe a check sheet and you are getting marked off as you go to show that you've actually learnt something. But the bulk of that pyramid, the bulk of learning in the workplace, the 70%, is on the fly, probably ad hoc. Stuff happens and you learn from it. You see somebody else doing something, you think, oh, that's interesting. How do you do that? And it's on the fly, it's unplanned, it's ad hoc, it's oftentimes self-directed. So many years ago, that was my first inkling of that. And over time, in recent years, I'm observing how technology and I guess supply and demand is impacting how learning occurs in the workplace and how learning supporters, training providers like myself are kind of adjusting their offering to suit that supply and demand. There'll always be a place for classroom, formalised learning experiences. It is more costly and it takes time, but it's high value add. And for some types of learning, interpersonal skills where lots of practice and feedback is needed, where there's a value in the group dynamic, giving different perspectives and different experience levels, there'll always be a place for that. But I think quite rightly what organisations, what companies are looking for, what leaders are looking for, what individuals are looking for, is what they need, when they need it, where they need it. And technology, particularly mobile technology, is enabling this. So probably 20 years ago I did my postgraduate qualification and I did a big project around a business model for distance learning. Back in the day, correspondence schools and the internet was just starting up and email was a thing, and how can we use this for learners to learn at their own pace, at their own place. And so I was fascinated at the time how this might be applied. And progressively since then, from distance learning, we've moved into micro-learning in recent years. Small bite-sized pieces, self-directed by people like yourself, where you discover a problem, you discover a skill gap, you hear about something, you read about something in a newsletter or a LinkedIn post or whatever, and how do I find out more about this? And with the power of the search engines, Google, and the number 2 searching facility online, YouTube, video provides a lot of the answers. And so I see former colleagues of mine, I see people out there providing bite-sized micro-learning, 1, 2, 3, 10-minute chunks, if you like. And I like that concept, but oftentimes they're part of a broader program of e-learning, where you still need to go through modules and someone still needs to sign you off till you get to the next stage. And that's perfectly valid, and there's a place for that, and I do in some parts contribute to programs like that. And as part of a portfolio of learning, from the classroom to structured on the job, kiosks and laptops and mobile digital devices, they can all provide that structured e-learning, formalised but automated. And I'm a fan of that. It's not something I particularly want to get involved in. So this series of BrainBasedBoss just-in-time learning videos really focuses in a niche within that framework. and it's the phrase just in time. So that postgraduate qualification that I did 20 years ago, my major project was looking at quality management. And the history of quality management comes from manufacturing and processing, post-World War II Japan and so forth. And one of the principles from that is just in time. So traditionally you would buy your raw materials for your production, you would pay for that, it would arrive, you'd have to store them and you'd pay for that storage. And so the notion of just in time was minimizing those costs by buying only what you needed and minimizing the storage. And it's all about optimizing your processes so you were able to do that without disrupting production. So that was the theory. Algorithms, computers made it more calculable, and it's worked amazingly well. We have incredibly efficient production in many places around the world, and international supply chains and logistics making just in time actually very feasible, and a driver behind economic booms in the past 20 years. So my study was looking at those principles in production of quality management, particularly just in time, and applying it to service industries. And so I've taken that recently and looked at, okay, well, how can I as a learning supporter or a training provider create content? You know, I've got some wisdom out of 25 years. I've written the book and the Brain-Based Boss and others. Let's granulate that into micro-learning chunks, but on a just-in-time basis. So what I'm doing with this program is it's not a program. It's a resource library, self-directed by you, and hopefully all the people you like and share and tell this about, to find what you need, where you need it, when you need it. And that's the beauty of it. So we've tagged it and categorized it so you can search and mix and match and pick and mix as much as it's a buffet, it's a smorgasbord. So that's the primary driver behind it. Most of the videos are 3 to 10 minutes. This is a bit of an exception. It's free, it's the introduction to it, so you know what you're getting into. And then you can start throwing those credit card numbers at the machine. And again, don't like it? Step out. Try before you buy, always my advice. So the thing that really got my thinking crystallized in the last 12 months to go into production on these things and to do so on a regular basis. So we'll put out a goodly portion of just-in-time Brain-Based Boss videos at a launch, and then one a week on an ongoing basis. Always new content. I'm coming up with new ideas, I'm discovering new things all the time. One tool, one idea, one technique per video, 3 to 10 minutes. Bit of content, bit of research, and a story or a diagram to illustrate. No study, no homework, maybe a handout, maybe a template, PDF to go along with it. The thing that really, probably 3 things I think really drove me to start doing this now. And I'll throw you some stories. So about 3 years ago, my wife and I bought a 5-acre, what we call in New Zealand, a lifestyle block. We're not farmers, we don't pretend to be. My wife is a competitive equestrian. So we have chickens, we have a barn, and we have horses. I'm not a horse person myself, but I like to be supportive, so I carry a smile and a shovel. And that shovel is for what horses produce as a result of, they're basically grass processing machines, and they're very efficient. But what do you do with their output? So we worked out that we needed to get a triple compost bin for processing the manure that the horses produced. Our local lumberyard, and it is a lumberyard, it's not a flash retail outlet. We're in a rural area, and this is literally a sawdust strewn, pine smelling rural lumberyard. Great service, great people, great product. Rang them up, organised to, can I get a kit set triple compost bin for horse manure, please? Yep, no problem, got just what you're after. It's this amount of money. We'll leave it outside, seeing as how you want to pick it up out of hours. Oh, fantastic, awesome. I picked it up, and the kit set was a pile of wood and a bag of nails, and stapled to that bag of nails was a ripped off piece of paper, probably from a desk calendar, and scribbled on that was a URL, a web address. Okay, fascinating. Got it home. Next day, fine weather, laid it all out on the flat concrete platform outside the barn. Took out my iPad, still within reach of the house Wi-Fi, and that's kind of a sign of today. I'm literally in the country outside a barn and I've still got access to Wi-Fi. Tap in the URL, it's a YouTube URL, and what should pop up? Got a very kind of shaky handy cam, but still pretty good quality video, pretty good quality sound. Couple of dudes, let's call them Kevin and Steve, and they take me through step by step how to construct a triple compost bin for horse manure. And I'm not the worst DIY guy in the world, but I'm not the best. But this is the best thing I've ever produced in my life. It's flat and it's square and it's level and it's strong and it does the job. And it struck me that hey, these guys weren't Steven Spielberg or Peter Jackson. There wasn't Star Wars CGI leaping out of a screen in 3D or anything like that. Couple of guys, it could have been on a phone that they were filming this. And it was stop and start, step by step, maybe some editing. There was no overlay graphics, no green screening. You could hear the wind hitting the camera. But it was good enough quality video, and from what I hear from other people that I talk to in terms of video production, people really care about content. They're not that enamored with those special effects. And 20 years ago, a video production needed to be, high class production values, actors that would go on to great things and so forth. But no, a couple of experts, Kevin and Steve, and the key thing is good audio. You can clearly hear what they're saying. And the finished result is the proof of the pudding, if you like. And so that was amazing to me, that here is evidence of micro-learning just in time. That phrase I'll keep throwing at you, what I needed, where I needed it, when I needed it. So again, YouTube's all provided, it's all free, we've all got phones, this is very doable. And the second example was more recently, and I was working with a printing company. I was running a Train the Trainer program for them, 2-day in-house program, part of that 10% of the pyramid. But I learnt as much from them as they learnt from me. They created their own in-house video resource library. They didn't have an HR department or a training department. They all had their own devices, smartphones and so forth. And they just had, initially, I guess, as they explained it to me, a bit of a habit that as things happened, as they installed things, as things got a bit tricky, as mistakes occurred, they just sort of whipped out the phone and videotaped it happening. Someone who was a bit ambitious and organised set up a moderated YouTube channel where they uploaded their content. And it was there for training new people coming in and for debriefing successes and failures to see what went wrong. And it was curated and aggregated and moderated. And here's the other thing, apart from decent video, good sound, is organisation and categorisation. You don't want too much of a administration overhead and workload, but it needs to be searchable and easily findable. Otherwise people just won't use it. So that was a tremendous lesson for me. Low risk, low rent, high user involvement, creating a resource that people could get into easily using technology with which they were familiar. And everyone gets YouTube. Kids use it. So it's not challenging, and I say, not cost prohibitive. So my horse manure compost bin experience, my boutique printing company experience. The third thing was back at the barn. So we have external floodlights, a couple around the place. This country that I live in, glorious place, but 3 months of the year it's pretty dark around the edges of the day when it's still time to get horses fed and a few outdoor things done near the barn. So the lighting's pretty important. And one day I wasn't around, the light bulb blew, and it didn't just die, it literally blew. So whatever occurred, I don't know, but the glass exploded out of it. I came home, discovered it, and think, okay, I'll replace the bulb. I'm pretty forward thinking, we've got spares in the barn. But I couldn't unscrew the burst bulb because the glass had all burst, and that was the bit that you held on to do the unscrewing. So I'm at a bit of a loss here, and good old Kiwi DIY thoughts start to creep in, saying, I'll just get a pair of needle nose pliers and shove it in there and give it a bit of a twist. It's probably not a great idea around electrical sources. So fortunately, my survival brain at the back said, hang on cowboy, let's do some research. Hit up Captain Google or Dr. YouTube, and within 0.03 seconds, or whatever the YouTube searching speed is, typing in something crazy like can't unscrew light bulb, up popped might have been Lithuanian YouTube clip. Couldn't speak the language, but I could see very clearly within 30 seconds of this 90-second video they'd come up with a very ingenious solution, simple and cheap and quick. So simple that I was too stupid to even think of it as a possibility. I'll give you a second now to think, what would you do in this situation to get that unscrewable light bulb unscrewed? Any ideas? I'll let you know. A potato. The Lithuanians suggested getting a potato that was just a little bit bigger than the actual diameter of the burst out bulb. Push it in there, give it a bit of a wiggle and a wedge till it's in there nice and tight. You then can grip the potato and unscrew it, and 3 seconds later it's out, new bulb is in, chuck away or recycle the bulb, and the potato probably needs to go as well because the old jagged glass thing. I don't know what a potato costs, about 16 cents. So between the horse compost bin video experience and the boutique printing experience and my Lithuanian potato video, suddenly I'm thinking this is what I want to produce. I don't want to go into high production values. I don't want to create e-learning modules. I want to take little pieces of wisdom, tools, stories, techniques, pieces of research, case studies that I come across in my training and travels, and create micro-learning, just-in-time training or learning videos. So that's the backstory, if you like. We'll produce, as I say, a large number of these to start off with. It's a subscription service, and we'll put out one a week on an ongoing basis. So thank you very much for watching this far. I hope you think it's a good idea. Please do have a bit of a dabble, a bit of a peruse of the smorgasbord. Search and sort to your heart's content. Thanks for watching so far, and please do enjoy and learn from BrainBasedBoss Just-in-Time Learning Video Series.